Honestly speaking, I'm a Steam Deck fan, and that's mostly because there is nothing comparable to the Steam OS experience. However, there are 6 exclusive features that make the ROG Ally X truly unique. Number 6. The desktop-sized SSD. A common problem with many gaming handhelds is the limited capacity of their internal SSDs for installing games. Let's face it, 256 GB or even 512 GB just doesn't cut it anymore. And to make matters worse, finding compatible SSDs at launch was a total headache. The Steam Deck, ROG Ally, and MSI Claw all use 2230 style SSDs, which are tiny and lacked a substantial market before handhelds. To make things even more confusing, the Legion Go opted for 2242 style SSDs. Thankfully, SSD manufacturers stepped up, and now you can get a decent range of 2230 and 2242 drives. But here's where the ROG Ally X pulls ahead. Asus ditched those niche sizes and went with a standard 2280 SSD, the kind used in desktop PCs and laptops for years. Why is that awesome? Because 2280 SSD are everywhere, and they are way more flexible. While those smaller SSDs max out at 2 TB, 2280 drives can go up to 8 TB. That's insane for a handheld. Honestly, this should just become the standard for every gaming handheld out there. Number 5. The huge battery capacity. So Asus didn't just bump up the battery in the ROG Ally X, they doubled it to 80 watt-hours. That's a pretty massive jump. And with the same AMD Ryzen Xeon Extreme processor, we knew the battery life was going to be impressive. Now, if you compare it to other gaming handhelds, it really stands out. Even the Steam Deck, which is known for its solid battery life, only has a 40 watt-hours battery. And that's mainly because of its more power-efficient AMD APU and the custom Linux OS. The Legion Go got a bit more juice with a 49.2 watt-hours battery, and the MSI Claw is sitting at 54.5 watt-hours battery. But let's be real, smaller batteries just are not enough anymore. What's surprising is that even newer entries into the gaming handheld market have stuck with smaller batteries. Take the Acer Nitro Blaze 7, it comes with a 50 watt-hours battery. While that's fine for a first attempt, the laptop-class AMD processor means it won't come close to battery life of the ROG Ally X's Ryzen Xeon Extreme. Ioneo is the only other brand offering 80 watt-hours batteries in some of its models, but those are heavier than the ROG Ally X, which could make long gaming sessions less comfortable. Number 4. Multiple cooling fans. I've tried a bunch of gaming handhelds, and the ROG Ally X is definitely the best when it comes to keeping things cool without blasting your ears with noise. That's mainly thanks to its smart cooling system with big heat pipes and 2 fans that push the heat out. 2 fans are just better than 1, which is why the Legion Go gets so noisy unless you're using the lower TDP settings. The single fan just can't keep up. The Steam Deck is not much better either, with its 1 fan struggling to keep things cool. Honestly, 1 fan is barely enough for a laptop. How can it be enough for a gaming handheld? But it looks like things might be changing. I saw that the Legion Go's product page now mentions dual fans, so maybe that's a sign of an update or a new version. Either way, it is good to see that Lenovo's paying attention to the feedback. Nobody wants a handheld that gets too hot or too loud, so I really hope the next gen of gaming handhelds starts adding more fans to keep everything cooler and quieter. Number 3. The Ergonomics. When Asus decided to put an 80 watt-hours battery into the ROG Ally X, it meant making the device a bit thicker than the first model. Honestly, that's a good thing. The extra thickness makes it feel more like a proper console controller, and it's way more comfortable to hold. The grips are shaped differently, and the back buttons are now more centered and less likely to get accidentally pressed. The joysticks are lighter to the touch and have a slightly different shape too. The face buttons are positioned higher, making them easier to press, and the D-pad is bigger, which I love. The triggers are wider, giving a much better feel overall. I wouldn't call it the perfect shape for a handheld gaming console because everyone has different hand sizes and preferences. But Asus has definitely nailed it in terms of overall comfort. The MSI Claw is probably the closest competitor. I'm a fan of my Steam Deck, but I admit, the D-pad and button placement are a bit weird, and reaching the touchpads feels odd too. The Legion Go is just too thick, and its controllers feel bulky. A lot of the designs in the market are a bit niche and don't really suit the mainstream, but maybe that's okay. Just like in the console world, the best designs often stick to the same basics with a few tweaks. Number 2, a crisp 1080p display. Well, I would love to see an OLED screen on every gaming handheld, but I've got to admit, OLEDs do use a bit more power than IPS panels. The 1080p 120Hz display on the ROG Ally X hits the sweet spot. It is sharp enough for gaming and desktop tasks and still manages to save battery life. The Steam Deck's 800p screen is fine for gaming, but it's a struggle if you try to use SteamOS on the desktop without connecting to an external monitor. The Legion Go goes the other way with its 1600p 144Hz display, and while that's great for visuals, it drains the battery way too fast, even on lighter 2D games that don't put much strain on the CPU. The Nintendo Switch keeps it simple with a 720p display, and that works because it doesn't need a high resolution for its handheld mode. Until we get a better battery life or more efficient components, 1080p with a variable refresh rate offers the best balance for handheld gaming consoles. Number 1. More memory. The ROG Ally X takes things up a notch by offering 24GB of RAM, which is a great choice when you're feeding both the CPU and GPU from the same memory pool. Most earlier gaming handhelds came with 16GB, which might be fine for the Steam Deck or SteamOS. Before Windows-based handhelds, it was always a balancing act between solid desktop performance and smooth in-game FPS. Going forward, every gaming handheld should come with at least 24GB of RAM. This gives you 8GB for the GPU and 16GB for the OS and CPU tasks. But honestly, why stop there? RAM is cheap these days, so let's go ahead and bump it up to 32GB in future devices. That's it for today. The ROG Ally X sets the bar high, but we'll have to see if the competition can keep up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I'll catch you in the next one.